The lady from Pearl that interviews me, man, she's just like, hey, look, I'm gonna shoot you straight. We don't see a lot of people like you. You know, you had it all. You came from a great family. You're very privileged. She said you're the definition of a privileged person. But you blew through all your privileges in life. You became a drug addict, a criminal, and a thief, and a jury in Dallas gave you life in prison for the things you did. But instead of letting that license define you, you changed yourself inside this prison, Mr. West. She said there's no doubt about the change you made to yourself. But she said, but what got our attention, the reason why we're here today, is you didn't just change yourself inside this prison. You changed this whole prison.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Connecting the Journey. I'm very excited about our guest that's with us today. It's very few people that you can say that you've known for 40 years, and reflecting back on that, it's like, wow, that's a big number. Yeah. But let me just remind you about the premise of the show. As entrepreneurs, as builders, we're always looking to the future. We're always looking for the next big win, and very seldom do we stop, take a moment, and look back and see those God-week moments that really got us where we are today so we can move forward with gratitude. And our guest today has lots of God-week moments along the way, lots of insights to share, and probably one of the most inspirational stories that I've seen over the last 8 years and really have been a part of. So I'm really excited to introduce my guest, Damon West. Welcome to the show,
man.
brother.
Hey, brother, thanks a lot for having me today. It's an honor to be here. Gabe, first of all, it's an honor to be here because you have been in my corner my entire life through the good times and, of course, the bad times. We're going to talk about some of that, but man, you were one of those people that was waiting for me that day when I got out of prison back in 2015. And man, you'll never be able to understand how grateful I am for that. You and Aaron and those guys and Chris and Brian and all them, big deal for me.
Yeah,
man.
I appreciate you, dude. I remember that first picture when you got out. It was a picture of a Whataburger.
Yeah.
Your mom brought you some Whataburger.
Well, what's your first meal when you get out of prison after almost a decade, right?
Exactly.
Whataburger.
Number two.
Number two, what a size with cheese.
Awesome. Well, look, me and Damon grew up together in Port Arthur, Texas. I'm going to let him jump into kind of his story, but, you know, we grew up together in Port Arthur. He had a scholarship at North Texas. I followed him up here, me and Aaron Aaron went home. I stayed, and you went to prison.
Well, there are a few things happening there, right?
A few things happen, but that's the gist of it. But Damon's done an amazing job over the last 8 years of building his brand, building a speaker company, basically.
Yeah.
But it all started way before that, right? So let's back up. Let's go back to childhood in Port Arthur. Like, 'cause there's things that happen in your life that anchors from that.
Absolutely, because all of our experiences build who we are today, right? Everything. I like to tell people all the time, position determines perspective, right? Where you've been, what you've seen determines the world the way you see it, right? So we all have a perspective built from where we've been in life. And you know, when we grew up in Port Arthur, both of us had a great life. We came from 2-parent homes, good students. You were a real good golfer. I was a real good football player. Good enough to get a Division I scholarship to play football at North Texas. You know, we come up here, we go to college together, we're roommates together. And of course, you know how the story happened. I got hurt against Texas A&M in '96 and my career is over. And that's when I go into a different path. And you saw that happening, man. I get into cocaine and ecstasy and popping pills and running with a wild crowd and
Front row seat,
man. And you even tried to pull me back a few times, but I told you, I got it, man. I got it under control, right? The famous last words.
Yeah. I always say you didn't have that, whatever it was, you didn't have that shut-off valve of that gene of like, that's enough.
Yeah.
If it was a hookup at a club, it was a hookup at a restaurant or wherever, you never had that shut-off valve.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I had to get my ego removed to have that happen. But I did. I got my ego removed. We'll get to that for sure. But yeah, so for the listeners listening, you know, Gabe and I, we go to college together. I graduate in '99. I move off to Washington. I work in Wall Street. I move off to Washington. I work in the United States Congress. Then I work for a guy running for president, and then I come back to Dallas in '04 to be a broker for UBS. In fact, right down the road from here.
Down the road.
Yeah, right down the road in Northwest High on the Tollway. And it was at that job in 2004 that another broker introduced me to meth for the first time. You know, I was sleeping at work. He said, I got something to pick you up. You know, let's get back in. The markets are open. So I take my first hit of meth in 2004. 18 months later, I'm living on the streets of Dallas. I'm homeless. I've smoked everything up. And during this time, and I've got friends like you that are still like, hey, man, what's going on? And of course, addicts, we lie. We are very manipulative. And if you think I didn't have a shut-off valve back then before the drugs, man, I was really hardcore at this point.
I understand. That's the wrong drug for you to meet.
Yeah, it's right. Because, I mean, and here in addiction, here's what I'll say about addicts. Addicts, for the most part, they're not sick people. They're bad people that do, they're sick people that do bad things, not bad people that do sick things. And you've lived with an addict too. you got a brother that has suffered from the disease of addiction. So you understand addiction. You know your brother, you love your brother. But when your brother's under the influence, he's not the same person.
Same person, yeah.
And that's what I became. Whenever I got into meth, it's all I cared about. After I lost my job as a broker, I just lied about different jobs I had. I was living on the streets of Dallas about 18 months later, though, because I'd smoked everything up.
Couch hopping,
lived in dope houses, slept in people. I've slept in cars, you know.
When was Aaron's wedding during this time? 99 to 2000?
2005. 2005 was Aaron's wedding. That was Aaron's wedding. That's the one where I flipped out in the parking lot. I was high as a kite, man. I was on meth. I was staying at your house, your parents' house.
I was wondering. I was like, why are we stopping every 15 minutes to go to the bathroom?
On the way home. Yeah, it wasn't because I had to go to the bathroom. It was because I had to smoke meth out of this glass pipe. I was so hooked on the stuff. And so that's whenever I became a criminal. And because addicts, we want what we want when we want it. So all this talent that I had, and this is something that's going to be a recurring theme in this story, is like when I was playing football, you know, when we were growing up in Port Arthur and Friday Night Lights in Texas, I'm the quarterback, the star quarterback of our town. You know, I was very focused on that, driven on that. I got up and I worked harder than everybody else. I wanted that scholarship and I got it, man. But when that was gone, I didn't have any outlet for that kind of like focus. Yeah. But once
your whole identity was wrapped up. My whole
identity was wrapped up in that. Yeah, it's a very good point. From ninth
grade.
Yeah, from ninth grade on. I mean, because you know how we grew up in our town. You're the quarterback. You're the man. Yeah. That's Texas, man. That's Texas high school football. Friday Night Lights. So
and the access you had. Also. I mean, that's another thing. We grew up in Port Arthur. Your dad's a sports writer. I mean, the access. You know what all the Cowboys fans are wanting right now. You had front row seat of that.
Yeah, my dad and Jimmy were best friends. Jimmy Johnson, the head coach. I'd go to all the games and be on the sideline and hold Jimmy's headphone cord and
practice with the
Cowboys in the summertime.
Yeah, with your receiving core. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, like for especially someone that's 17, 18 years old to be in that lane doing that. But again, once that's gone, I'm kind of listless, and that's where the drugs come in because, you know, the very definition of addiction is when you give up your goals to meet your behaviors. That's addiction. So, and this doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol, right? This could be food, money, clothing, shopping, sex, pornography, the internet, social media, Instagram, whatever it is.
When you give up your goals to meet your addiction.
When you give up your goals to meet your behaviors, you're an addict. So whatever the behavior is, if you see yourself in life giving up a goal to do that, check yourself because that's addictive behavior.
Yeah.
And with the meth, smoked it all away. I was living on the streets and I became a criminal. And started breaking into cars and storage units first, little petty crimes. And then I started breaking into people's houses. Now, this is a serious crime because when I break into people's homes, Gabe, my victims, I don't just steal their property. I steal their sense of security. And that's a big deal because I can't give it back to them and I can't change what I did. I can't even apologize to my victims. It's a felony in Texas to apologize to the victim of a crime. They'll send you back to prison in Texas if you apologize. Yeah, it's a big deal. So these burglaries began in 2005. And then eventually I become the head of an organized crime ring of other burglars, other meth addicts breaking into houses. I'm the quarterback again, Gabe. And now I'm focused again, but it's wrong in the wrong direction. I'm focused on being the leader of a criminal ring of other meth addicts breaking into houses all over Dallas. It starts off in Uptown. They call them the Uptown burglaries. They actually called me the Uptown burglar before they even knew who I was. I was the Uptown burglar. And these burglaries go on for about 3 years, but it all comes to a head on July 30th, 2008. On July 30th, 2008, I was in this little rundown apartment in Dallas, and the flashbang grenade comes through the window. When I could see and hear again, the SWAT team's in there. You know, they're screaming, don't move, don't move. There's guns everywhere. There's people everywhere. And that day, they took me to Dallas County Jail where they arrested me. And I believe you saw it on the news, right?
I saw it on the news. I mean, when it was going through and they were looking for you, you had fake tattoos on your arm. You know, is that right? You had fake tattoos on your arm?
That was something I saw that picture. That's something with that security camera that picked me up. I don't know where that came from, but I was thinking, man, that's great because I don't really have a tattoo, but it had some kind of mark.
I figured you did that.
It had some kind of mark on my arm.
Because again, you're insanely smart, right?
Oh, dude, one of the first burglaries I ever did, when I realized I was going to be doing this full time, I broke into a U.S. post office here in Dallas and I stole a mailman uniform. Mailman hat, mailman bag, mailman uniform. I became a mailman.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'd go federal crime to go.
I mean, yeah, but you don't know what your mailman looks like, right?
Yeah.
Who can get closest to a door without being noticed? A mailman. Exactly. In these condo buildings in Uptown, a lot of them have these mail kiosks, or used to have mail kiosks. And the mail kiosk is a room the mailman goes into with all these slots for mail, right?
Yeah.
On the outside, you got your key to your ordinary little box. But if you can be the mailman and you can go inside that room, all these slots, right? Some of them are stacked up with
see
mail.
who's out of town.
Yeah, some of them say out of town from this date to this date, hold our mail. And so that's where I started realizing where I could find, the next victims of burglaries. And I had about a dozen dope fiends in Dickie overalls in a box truck. We had, dollies, and people would let us in the gates on Saturdays, We're just, and then that's the thing. I'm dropping off stolen stuff in different neighborhoods in Dallas, stolen vehicles from these burglaries, because people are out of town. I find the spare key inside the apartment, and I go in the parking garage and I steal their Land Rover, their Mercedes, whatever, and I drop it off in a bad neighborhood where the police looking. So this is cat and mouse that I'm playing for 3 years.
Dealing with employees that are all dope fiends.
Oh my God! Yeah, you talk about
imagine that company culture?
Running a business. Yeah, it's like, people calling for work, they're not there. Like, hey, come on, man. No, but not to make any light of it. But I was a bad guy, and I deserved to have justice brought to me, and that justice came in the form of a SWAT team. But I tell people all the time, I look back on July 30th, 2008. That's not just the day I was arrested. That was the day I was rescued.
Yeah,
I get pulled out of a situation in life I couldn't get myself out of. And and it's like, the Dallas SWAT team saved my life, so much so that I've found them in the years later. This is just, recently where I found Dallas SWAT, reached out to them. I went out and thanked them for saving my life, met with them, told them, if you have a list of equipment you need so you can go out and save other people's lives, give me the list and I'll buy it. And they sent me like $20,000 worth of stuff, and I bought it all because I want to, and I keep funding them. I want to take care of them because I believe that one of the dumbest slogans I've ever read was defund the police.
Oh, yeah.
We need to fund them with the right stuff, the right people around them. And so that was like my thing. Like, hey, I work a 12-step program recovery, and I want to make sure that you have what you need because you saved my life. Maybe you can save someone else's. Yeah. So we're a long way from that guy, though. July 30, 2008, I'm arrested, Dallas County Jail. My bond is $1.4 million. I'm not getting out. I go to trial 10 months later in 2009, May 18th, 2009. And after a 6-day trial, the jury deliberated for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, Gabe. This is like, you can't, I don't even know if you can go faster. They just went in the room, checked the box, said, let's go, we're ready to go. And there was a RICO case. It's not a burglary case. It's organized crime, it's RICO, and I'm the boss. Yeah. And I came back in the courtroom, and the judge read my sentence out loud. Damon Joseph West, you're hereby sentenced to 65 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And it took my breath away. My mom, I heard a gasp on the front row. My mom and dad were there, What
were you expecting?
I thought I would get 20 years because a burglary case is 20 years. But when you put organized crime on it, you open up the sentencing to a full range of the maximum. Yeah. And 65 years in Texas is a life sentence in Texas. That's what juries don't understand that. When someone gets over 60, it's life. Yeah. And in prison terms, they call it 6 dimes and a nickel. So every 10 years is a dime, 5 years a nickel. So I got 6 dimes and a nickel. And after the trial is over, my mom and my dad get to visit with me, and my mom's telling me, hey, you can't get in one of these white hate groups, these Aryan Brotherhood gangs. You weren't raised like that. We weren't raised like that in Port Arthur. We grew up in a very diverse town. Very diverse. Very diverse. You
minority. We're pretty much minority, actually.
Yeah, actually, being white, you're pretty much a minority, which was fine. We grew up like that. We didn't know anything different, right? Mm-hmm. And slumber parties looked like America, in our town growing up. And it was a great way to grow up. But mom was reminding me of how we were raised. So she's telling me, no gangs and no tattoos. She said, you come back as the man that we raised, or don't come back at all. I don't know how I'm gonna do this, Gabe. But I
want to know, what went through your brain? I think we've talked about this, and my takeaway is that you don't know how to handle that situation until you're in it. Yeah. I don't think before, I couldn't fathom hearing 65 years and then going through what you went through. What was going through your brain at that time after your mom tells you that and they take you behind the door?
Yeah, first of all, what was going through my brain is that I'll never be able to keep that promise, because when I'm in Dallas County Jail for the next 2 months, so I've got a 2 month.
You've been in Dallas County for how long until the trial?
Up until that time, 10 months.
Okay.
So I got another couple months before the prison bus comes to get me. And
Dallas County is not a nice place to be.
No, Dallas, it's one of the biggest jails in America. There's 9,000 people in Dallas County Jail. It's like a city inside there. So it's very populated. It's a lot of people in there. But I'm asking all these guys that have been to prison before, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? And every guy's telling me the same thing. You have to get into a gang. You can't survive without a gang. But there was this one guy that was so different. And here's the part of the story where I'll tell people on the entrepreneur journey that the messengers in life can come to you from anywhere in life. The trick is you have to be receptive to all the messengers. And the messengers They look different than you. They come from a different background, but that's why they're the messenger, because they have a different perspective.
Have to be open to the message.
Have to be open to the messenger, right? And that's having an open mind. Like my sponsor in AA says all the time, the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So you have to have an open mind. And I'm in a place, Gabe, where I've got an open mind because I'm scared to death, and I'm in a world I've never been in. I'm looking for the answers. And I meet this old black Muslim guy in Dallas County Jail named Muhammad. This guy that's been a career criminal his entire life, but he's got a real positive outlook. He's always smiling. And so he pulls me aside and he's like, hey, listen, man, don't listen to these idiots about getting to a gang, but here's the truth about prison. Prison's about race. You're going to go in there and find this out. You're going to be approached first by the white gangs. You got to fight them if you don't want to be a part of them. Then it'll be the black gangs, but you'll earn the right to walk alone as long as you keep fighting. And he tells me important things in life, like you don't have to win all your fights, but you got to fight all your fights. Big lesson in entrepreneurial journey, right?
Yep.
You're going to get knocked down. You're going to lose. In fact, I would say in the entrepreneurial journey, you lose more than you win in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And so that's what he's telling me. Don't worry about the wins. Just keep fighting.
And you're learning through those fights, right?
You're learning through those fights.
You fail, you're learning through those.
Absolutely. Failure is a teacher.
Yep.
And so, but he sees that he sees this fear in my eyes. And that's when he tells me this incredible allegory that changed my life forever. And he told me to imagine prison as a pot of boiling water. And he said, you got 3 choices in the pot of boiling water. Be like a carrot that becomes soft in the boiling water. A carrot goes in hard, but becomes soft in the water. You can go in like an egg. An egg goes in with a shell that protects it on the outside, but inside that shell, that soft liquid core, the yolk, becomes hard in the water. Or be like a coffee bean that changes the water to coffee. He said the coffee bean is the only thing that changes the water because it's the change agent, right? He said it's the only thing that can change the water because the power is inside the coffee bean to change the water around the coffee bean. So he's telling me, man, the world is going to be full of carrots. They're going to be full of eggs, people that get soft by prison, people that get hardened by prison, but you have to change the prison from the inside out, and the power's inside you to do this. And the last words he ever said to me before the prison bus came to get me was, be a coffee bean, the 4 words that are on my shirt.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first heard it, Gabe, I felt empowered by the message because it put the power back inside me. Mm-hmm. And if the power's inside me, it's not the world around me, right? The criminal justice system, the guards, the other inmates, it's inside me. And if I keep the power inside me, maybe I don't just survive prison. Maybe I thrive in that prison.
Yeah.
And I was going to find out. And that's the power of the coffee bean message, because I took the coffee bean message to the biggest pot of boiling water there is, a level 5 maximum security prison in Texas. Now, when you get a life sentence in Texas, you have to live with lifers. It's the most dangerous part of prison there is. It's a custody type deal. I get to prison, Gabe, and it's everything he said. I'm fighting immediately when I get in there. For the first 2 months, I probably get in 3 dozen fights, and I lose most of those fights. I'm getting my butt kicked all over prison. But again, I'm winning the fights because I'm showing up to the fights. Yeah. No one in there cared about your wins and losses. You know what I found out here in the free world? No one cares about your wins and losses. Most of the time, people don't even know your wins and losses. You know that number. But everybody's watching to see if you're going to get back up. Mm-hmm. In prison, in the free world, your business, your family, your journey, your country, just get up.
Yeah.
And so I keep getting up every day. And after 2 months of constant fighting, the violence is finally over and the threat to my physical safety is gone. And that's when I started working on myself to become a coffee bean. And it was important for me to do this. I got a letter from my favorite teacher growing up. This is before we went to junior high together. This is in 7th grade. Mr. Jellin was my 7th grade Texas history teacher. And he wrote a letter to me in prison. And I get this letter in like 2010 or 2011. It comes in the mail one night. And he's telling me, you've been the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, but you've always been able to bounce back. And he said, I believe you'll bounce back from this. And he said, I think you should share your story with other people when you get out, because you'll bring people hope when you turn this thing around. And he had those 4 words in that letter that you usually hear from a teacher or a coach. He said, I believe in you. Mm. Gabe, that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Because here I am sitting in a dungeon, man, just chipping away at this life sentence. The only people that will tell me words like that are my family at this point, man. No one else believes in me, but this guy believes in me. I slept with that letter. I took the letter with me all over the prison, man, because it had those words in it, man. But what it also had in it was my focus. Now my mission, I'm focused on something again. Remember the football that I was always focused on? Yep. Now, if I'm going to go out there and share my story, what does my story look like? And I'm sitting around looking, I'm in this prison. I don't have a good story, but I can create the best person possible, man. If I could change the way I think, I could change the way I see the world around me. I stopped looking at prison as a punishment, and I started looking at prison as an opportunity. Another rule about your entrepreneurial journey. You have to see the obstacles as opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Think about the obstacle of sitting in a dungeon. I start building my brand inside this prison, the coffee bean, right? And I start sharing the coffee bean message with people in there, and I start showing what a coffee bean is. And there's rules about being a coffee bean, right? You got to have positive energy everywhere you go, because you either infect the rooms you walk into or you affect a room. Infect with negative, affect with positive. You got to get up every day and work out on yourself, spiritually, mentally, physically. You got to stay in shape in those 3 areas, because you can't give what you don't have. You find ways to serve other people. Servant leadership. I found out that's the secret to life.
How'd you do that in prison? You talk about servant leadership a lot. How'd you do that while you were in there?
So I learned about servant leadership from all these volunteers that come into the chapel. And these men are telling me about servant leadership. And I asked myself, all right, how do I serve these guys around me? And the answer comes to me, because I had been very privileged. I had a bachelor's degree when I went to prison. I opened a free tutoring service in there, Gabe. I started teaching guys how to read and write. I get them ready for the GED test. So if they ever got out of prison one day, they'll be a better husband or a better father. And in prison, everything is transactional. Nothing is free, because you don't want to accept something from somebody who tries to give something for free, because there's a bigger price than that you want to pay. Yeah. Right. So guys would tell me, man, you're tutoring me. I got to pay you with something, Wes. That's just the rules in here. How am I going to pay you? I said, well, don't pay it back. Pay it forward. And I explained to them what pay it forward is. Pay it forward means I'm doing you this solid. You go do a solid for someone else. Find someone else in need, meet that need in that other person. I started teaching guys about what a healthy community looks like, because I believe a healthy community is a place where everybody comes and puts their talents on the table, right? Everybody says, hey, if you need this service right here, I'm your guy for that. That's what communities look like. And that's what the prison became, this healthy community. A guy I'm teaching how to read and write, for example, he's a prison artist. One of the best artists you've ever seen, this old Hispanic guy, best artist I've ever seen, man. We could shade anything with a pencil. He finds out that this other guy in our cell block, he wants to do a Christmas card for his family, but he doesn't have any money. He's indigent, right? He's broke. He doesn't have any family out there that will give him any money. But he wants to send something back to his family, because he's destroyed his family. He wants to do something for them. And so this guy, I'm tutoring him one day. He said, hey, man, I found a way. I'm going to pay it forward. I said, tell me about it. He said, well, this guy wants a Christmas card done. I'm going to go do his Christmas card. I'm going to do the best Christmas card he's ever had. I'll do it for free. And I get kind of emotional talking about this. So this guy, the indigent guy that had been in prison a long time, the longer you're gone in prison, the more family pictures start showing up without you in them, right? You understand this horribly in your own family. So this guy didn't have a family picture where they're all together. And he's been in prison long enough, new people have been born. But he had all these different individual pictures of all these people. And so the guy set him down for a portrait one day and drew him. And then he drew every one of these people in his family into a picture with him. Oh, wow. I mean, it was, dude, it gives me chills even talking about it. That guy receives that pay forward from this guy. This guy decides, man, you know what? And he tells him, I can't pay you. He said, pay it forward. Well, now you see the guy that got the Christmas card, he's pushing handicapped inmates to chow one day. That becomes his job in there. He looks for people that are handicapped in wheelchairs and pushes them to chow. Dude, it's just spreading, right? This change took place inside this prison, this maximum security level 5 prison in Beaumont, Texas, the Mark Stiles unit, one of the toughest prisons in Texas, maybe one of the toughest prisons in America. And in 2015, the parole board comes to see me. And I'm up for parole early because I'm a nonviolent criminal. They have 2 kinds of crimes in Texas. They have aggravated crimes and non-aggravated crimes. My crime is a non-aggravated. There's no physical victim. No one was ever home during these burglaries, Gabe. So I didn't get hit with the harshest kind of sentence on a life sentence. I'm eligible for parole way sooner than most people.
No one was home and you made yourself at home.
No, yeah. We were going, I mean, some of those places we were in for the whole weekend, man. We ate food there. It was
a funny thing when the news was on about this and they're like, this burglar made himself at home. He would eat their food and drink their milk. I'm like, oh, that's Damon. He doesn't make it. You make yourself at home anywhere.
Yeah, I did, man. And it's something.
But you make yourself at home in prison, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's jokingly like, you would make yourself home anywhere you go, but you made a community.
Yeah, I made a home.
Prison. Yeah.
I taught people the value of that. Like, most of the guys I'm locked up with, Gabe, they didn't come from the same background you and I did. They didn't have 2 parents in the house. They didn't have an education. They didn't have middle-class background. I mean, there's a lot of different Americas to grow up in. And I was open to that. I was awakened by that when I got to prison. Like most people didn't come from the same background as me and have the advantages I had in life. And I think the real way to like help other people is when you can take your talents and spread that out to them and share that with them. So that's what I was doing.
So 2015, you'd been in prison for
7 years at this point. I'm locked up at 7 years at this point because they started back to the day you're arrested. So that's when your time starts. So 2008 to 2017, I come up for parole. The lady from parole that interviews me, man, she's just like, hey, look, I'm gonna shoot you straight. We don't see a lot of people like you. You had it all. You came from a great family. You're very privileged. She said you're the definition of a privileged person. But you blew through all your privileges in life. You became a drug addict, a criminal, and a thief, and a jury in Dallas gave you life in prison for the things you did. But instead of letting that license define you, you changed yourself inside this prison, Mr. West. She said, there's no doubt about the change you made to yourself. But she said, but what got our attention, the reason why we're here today, is you didn't just change yourself inside this prison, you changed this whole prison. They knew about the stuff. They knew about the community building. They knew about everything. The wardens would talk about this guy that is just like this light inside this dark place. And she said, look, I got one question for you. And this one question, Gabe, determines whether or not I go home or stay in prison. So I know it's going to be a big one. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for it. She said, here's the question. If you could be remembered for being anything in life, anything at all, she said, tell me what that would be, but give it to me in just one word. Go. Wow.
What a question.
I know.
Seriously.
But the thing about it is, you think about this on the entrepreneurial journey too. Let's not just talk about an individual that wants to get out of prison. Think about the entrepreneurial journey. Now, if you're going to start a successful business, what's one of the things you have to do? You have to solve problems for other people, right? Yeah. And that's the answer. The answer that I gave her is useful. I said, I just want to be useful, because a useful person is someone who's out there that's needed in the world. We need useful people. Yeah. And a person that's useful can be productive in society again, can be a valuable member of society. And that's what I told her. I said, I just want to be useful. And I think human beings want two things out of life. And this is from living in prison to living outside of prison. We want to belong and we want to be loved. And when those two things are met, the human spirit is capable of so much, right? And so I told her, I said, I just want to be useful, man. And I could be useful inside this prison, as you've already seen, or I could be useful in the free world again. November 16th, 2015, I walk out of a Texas prison. Now, a little caveat, I'm not a free man. You know this, but your audience doesn't fully know this. I got a little more time left on parole in Texas. I'm on parole in the state of Texas until the year 2073. So 48 years from the day we're recording this right now. Yeah. Hey, I'm 49, so I'm halfway there, right? You just turned 49.
I did.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about being on parole, Gabe, because I'm a coffee bean. And so when I get out of prison, my parents are waiting for me out there. They drive me home, and I say home because I lived in my parents' spare bedroom for the first 2 years I was out, and I was grateful to have their spare bedroom, because there's a lot of people that get out of prison don't have a home. And that's where we first link up again, back in my parents' spare bedroom where I'm living there. Doesn't make for a good Tinder profile,
No, definitely not.
40 years old, out of prison, on parole for life, making minimum wage. This guy, right? So which way you swiping? But I start rebuilding my life in Southeast Texas again, in my parents' spare bedroom. And I've got this dream, right? Because I've been building this brand, this Damon West, the coffee bean. I know I'm sitting on a credible story and a great message, but the problem that I found out is there weren't a lot of places for me to share that story. And I found out really quickly, you can't go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison, I want to talk to your kids.
Yeah, it doesn't work well.
They'll chase you down the street.
Yeah.
So there weren't a lot of places for me to speak in the early days, but what there was, in my parents' spare bedroom, there was a mirror in there. A little vanity mirror my mom had in there. Remember the mirror? You've been in there. So every night for 2 years, I practiced my presentation in front of that mirror. My speaking presentation that I was going to do in front of these audiences one day, right? Now that I had this story built up and I turned it all around, I'm practicing presentation in front of that mirror for 2 years, Gabe. Every night, I'd go to work at the law firm in Beaumont, the Provost Humphrey Law Firm. I'd work out. I'd go to my meetings in AA, and I'd come home and I'd practice. I didn't miss a night getting my reps in. Anything you want to be good at in life, you have to practice that in life, because there is no such thing as an overnight success. It doesn't exist, Gabe. It's not real. It's like
everybody
a unicorn.
sees what's above the iceberg, but nothing that's below.
And that's what everybody...
You had 7 years in prison to build the below.
Yeah, right? 7 years to build the below. 2 years I'm working in front of this mirror. I'm getting my reps in. There's no audience, man. There's nothing. There's no lights on. There's no people clapping. There's nobody clapping. You're practicing in front of a mirror. Yeah. But I'm getting myself ready for what I believe is going to be the right opportunity. And the right opportunity for me, I thought, was going to be the world of college football, because I played Division I college football. But the problem is, it's been 20 years since I took the last snap in 1996. Yeah. Coaches don't know me. I don't know them. January 11th, 2017. I've been out of prison 14 months at this point. A buddy of mine in Houston, a guy who was older than us in high school, a guy named Mike Orta. Orta, he worked in Houston. Houston, 90 miles away from where we live. He calls me up. He works in the media. He says, hey, get to Houston right now. It's the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year Award. They're going to name the best college football coach in America tonight. He said, the 8 best coaches in the country are in this room. I'm going to sneak you in with a press pass. So, man, you know me. Hey,
Learned that in college.
cut the line, jump the rope.
You said you didn't learn anything.
Hey, who are you telling, man? I'm down. So
act like you don't belong there.
So I drive the 90 miles from Baltimore. First thing I had to do is I had to leave work and go put on a suit. I got 2 hand-me-down suits, so I picked the better of the 2, right? So I get my hand-me-down suit on. I go to Houston that night. He sneaks me in the back door of Toyota Center, and there I am in this room, Gabe, and all these coaches are there. You mean this is my shot, man? USC, Wisconsin, Penn State, PJ Fleck, they're all in this room. And I run up to all these coaches and I shake their hand and I give them my pitch of why they should bring me in to talk to their team. And Gabe, every coach I met that night, slammed the door in my face. They all said no. In 1 hour, I got 7 no's from the 8 coaches. That's a no every 8 minutes. Dude,
not even a maybe, just no's.
No, man, just no, man. Like some of them are walking off, man. I started talking about prison. One of them, like, I mean, you can get away from you. So it's like, man, it's a bloodbath, man. And so I'm in the corner of the Toyota Center, man. I've been there for an hour, right? I'm in the corner of the Toyota Center. I'm 10 feet from the door. I'm licking my wounds. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And the voice in my head is screaming at me, go home. The voice in my head is telling me things. You don't belong in this room. This wasn't ever going to be a real thing. Why did you dream so big? The voice in my head called me an imposter. I bet every one of you listening right now has heard that imposter voice, haven't you? But you know what I quit doing a long time ago? Listening to myself. And I'm going to tell you why I stopped listening to myself, Gabe, because sometimes I found out the voice in my head was fear talking to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't want to listen to fear because fear's a liar.
Yep.
Fear tells you lies and things that aren't real. So instead of listening to myself, I talk to myself. I've been doing this since prison, man. That night I'm telling myself, Damon, you're not going anywhere. That last coach is going to tell you no to your face before you go home. And the last coach, Gabe, hardest guy to get in the room. His team had just beat Alabama 2 nights before for the national championship. Everybody wants a piece of this guy's time. But I remind myself, Damon, you survived prison, dude. Prison was way worse than this. Is going to hurt you like prison. In life, building your journey, building your dreams, you've got to remind yourself of the times when you succeeded in life. Remember the wins. Focus on the wins and the positive, and that's how you get this positive self-talk, right? And so that night, I pumped myself back up in the corner. And I stalked Dabo Swinney around that room, the head coach at Clemson. And man, Gabe, I look like a crazy person. You've seen me on this. Yeah. Man, I hide behind fake plants. I'm pushing people out of the way. Dabo sees me. Security sees me too. And they're going to throw me out of the Toyota Centers. Who's going to get there first, right? But I get to Dabo first. And I give Dabo my pitch, and I'm talking way too fast, man. And I know it, but I get it all in. And I come up for air, and Dabo looks like this. He's like, you got a card on you? Man, it's the worst reception ever to a sales pitch. I'm like, oh, man. I gave him my card. He snatched it from me. Nice enough guy. He said, I'll check you out, and he's gone. Well, that's a no. I mean, I've seen that no before tonight. But you know what? I felt good about that night, that final no, because that no meant that I left it all on the field.
Yeah.
One of the biggest lessons I learned from playing sports, Gabe, is you give it your all. And sometimes you're going to lose. You're going to come up short. But if you give it your all, you did everything you could. You feel good about it. Or like Muhammad said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you got to fight all your fights. So I went home that night, and I forgot about that night. And 4 months later, I get an email out of the blue. It's the director of football operations at Clemson University, a guy named Mike Dewey. Mike Dewey's email said, hey, Damon, Coach Swinney met you at a award show in Houston. He'd love to have you come talk to his team. Do you have August 1st open? I'm like, brother, I got every first open.
Exactly.
Pick a first. So August 1st, 2017, I go speak to the Clemson Tigers, defending national champions of college football. And when I get done with that presentation tonight, that presentation that I had practiced hundreds of times in front of a mirror.
That was your first one.
That was my first big one. I've done some small ones, some community stuff, and a few small college football programs. I mean, nothing like the defending national champions of college football, right? This is the biggest stage in the world. Most of my reps at that point had been in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
But I had said these words hundreds of times. And so when I got in front of Dabo's team that night, I was very confident with where I was. I had my pitch down. I had where I wanted to, every cadence was right. And I get done with my presentation tonight, and Dabo's in my face now. And Dabo's high energy, man. He's like, man, that's the most amazing story I've ever heard. I've never seen my players respond like that to a speaker. He said, have you been to Alabama to talk to their football team? I looked at Dabo. I'm like, no, dude. I've been to Clemson. But he said, well, we'll see about that, Dan. He said, just text Nick Saban from the back of the room. Told him what I was watching. The next day, Gabe, when my flight lands in Houston for my trip to Clemson, I turned my phone on. I got a voicemail and a text message from the director of football operations at the University of Alabama, the Whale, the biggest program in America with the best coach to ever do it. And here's what the voicemail said. Hey, Damon, Dabo called Coach Saban last night. Coach Saban can't wait to hear your story. He said, how does August 21st, 7:30 p.m. work for your calendar? I laughed out loud. I didn't even have a calendar at the time. What do I need a calendar for? I work at a law firm, man.
It's open.
It's open. I'll be there. I'll see you in Tuscaloosa. Just like that, Gabe, Dabo Swinney kicks open the biggest door to college football. And Dabo doesn't stop there. He turns the entire Rolodex of college football over to me.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart calls, Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day. Every coach in America is blowing my phone up. When are you coming to talk to my team? Dabo called, said, I got to have you. Another rule about your journey. Relationships are everything. The relationships that you build in life are going to help you get where you want in life and help you do other things for other people too.
Yeah.
Be a connector. You got to always be a connector. And the connectors are the ones that make things happen. Dabo is a connector. He's connected me to all the world of college football. So the dream is real, man. It's happening.
Another lesson is that you asked for it.
Yeah,
right?
well, and I'm about to get to that one in a second here because you got to ask for it. But so Dabo is hooking me up with every college football team in America. But the biggest event that ever happened after I got out of prison on the speaking journey, a year after that first presentation at Clemson, it was August of 2018. I get a phone call out of the blue. And on the other end of my phone in August of 2018 is a guy named John Gordon. Now, John Gordon's one of the biggest motivational speakers and authors in America. This is the energy bus guy. You want to read some good books about motivation, entrepreneurship? John Gordon's your guy. And I'm like, John, I know who you are, brother. How do you know who I am? He said, Dabo Swinney. And he said, Damon, I was just speaking to Clemson's team today. Dabo brought me in the office, and for 30 minutes, he told me your whole story. Now, a little caveat to this that I want to share with your audience that I've rarely ever shared with anybody before. Dabo told me recently, we were together recently. He said, hey, Damon, do you know the story of how John and I started talking about you that day in 2018 in my office? I said, no, man, I don't know. Whenever I spoke to Dabo's team for the first time in 2017, I wanted to show Dabo some gratitude and leave something behind of me for being there. And I didn't have much money, Gabe. You remember those days? I didn't have anything. But I got these little wooden coffee bean keychains off the internet, a couple bucks a piece. All I had is a couple bucks. And whenever I went to speak to Dabo's team, I gave him a little wooden coffee bean keychain. And he's like, what's this for? What does this mean? I said, well, you'll hear in the presentation. Well, Dabo loved the coffee bean message, and he loved the keychain. So he put the keychain on his keychain. That day, a year later, when his buddy John Gordon's talking to the team, he goes into his office, he goes to sit down at his desk, and he pulls his keys out of his pocket, throws them on the desk. John's eyes go directly to that wooden coffee bean keychain. John said, hey, man, what's that on your keychain? Wow. Dabo said, oh, that's the coffee bean. He said, you ever heard the story of the coffee bean? Have you ever heard of Damon West? John's like, no, tell me about this Damon West. Gabe, never miss an opportunity to leave something behind and show gratitude for the people you're around. I mean, because that's one of the biggest lessons about being an entrepreneur. Like, leave something behind. Show that you're there. Show the gratitude, man. Because if I don't leave that coffee bean keychain with Dabo, we're not having this conversation today, and the world doesn't have that message. So John calls me up that day in 2018. He said, hey, Damon, listen, the world needs a coffee bean message, Damon. He said, let's deliver this message to the world. He said, will you write a book with me? We'll call it The Coffee Bean. And this is John Gordon, man. This is a massive worldwide author asking me to write a book with him. So in 2019, the summer of 2019, the book, The Coffee Bean, comes out, and it takes the world by storm. The whole planet, Gabe. You saw it all happen.
Yeah.
It was like...
How many languages is it in?
I mean, it's so many different languages. I don't even know how many languages it's in now. It's in every language in the world almost. I mean, but it starts off in America first. So every bestseller list, and it gets that global publishing deal. The global publishing deal puts it in Chinese and Spanish and Arabic, French, Italian, German, just in time for the year 2020. 2020, Gabe. A global pandemic hits. The entire planet became a pot of boiling water, and the entire world was searching for our message. And that's when the world discovered the coffee bean guy. The coffee bean guy from 2010 in that prison cell in Beaumont, Texas, that was carving out his message and carving out his brand way back then. That's when the world discovered the coffee bean guy. And Gabe, my life went from this to this. But it all goes back to that one night in Houston, Texas, January 11th, 2017. Remember that night that I had 7 no's in the first hour?
Yep.
And I'm 10 feet from the door, about to walk out and leave. If I walk out that door that night, like I said, we're not having this conversation today, and the world doesn't have the coffee message. So what I'm telling your audience is this: you don't give up when life gets tough. You don't quit because life gets hard. That journey is going to be tough. You don't not ask your questions in life. The only question you know the answer to in life is the one you do not ask. That answer is no every time because you never asked your question. And I think Wayne Gretzky said it best, Gabe. Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you do not take. You got to go take your shots in this life. And no matter what happens, just keep taking your shots over and over again. John Gordon told me something very important too on this journey whenever the success of the coffee bean was really becoming apparent. I mean, since the year 2021, I'm on the road 20 to 25 days of every month sharing the story somewhere. I speak to corporations, I speak to teams, little companies, big companies. Man, I speak all over the place, man. I mean, I am a guy that you bring in if you got this message, you want to create positive change from the inside out. And every company needs that, right? We need someone to tell us that the power's inside of us to change the world around us. But ever since then, I've been sharing this message and my life changed. But John told me this very important message in 2021. He said, do not ever stop telling your story of the coffee bean. He said, you are the coffee bean guy, and the coffee bean is your message. He said, never get off your brand. He said, here's what happens in life sometimes. He said, some people in life, they don't see the results fast enough of the brand they're trying to build. Yeah. Maybe 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, you don't see the results. And they change their brand, they change their message. And now you've just confused everybody because are you the coffee bean guy or are you this other guy you just became?
Right.
And he said, if you will stick this out, the world will know you as the coffee bean guy one day. And one day that'll be a pretty big thing. And Gabe, right now in the year 2025, I can tell you 8 years into this journey, that coffee bean message has become an 8-figure business. My speaking platform, like I said, I'm on the road. I do 180 to 200 gigs a year. The book sales, everything else that goes with it, the impact that I get to have over the world, the problems, you want to start a business, find a problem you can solve. The problem that I solve is that people need positive encouragement. They need to understand a way of living. And the coffee bean message is one of those things that corporations and sports teams and people all over can plug into their culture because it fits perfectly, right? The power's inside you. It's the ultimate message about how our world is created from the inside out, not the outside in.
Yeah. And, if you look at what you've built in 8 years, I mean, I've looked back and I'm like, man, if you feel like you're going fast, you need to see what Damon's up to, right? But that entrepreneur journey started in prison. It started before, even before you went to prison.
I think it's really, we're in year 15 when people talk about.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, it started in 2010, right? So I started rebuilding this life. I got sentenced in 2009 and started working on myself in 2010 in prison. Yeah. This brand has been around for 15 years. You just didn't hear about it until 8 years ago.
So what's it been like building that business on your own? I mean, you talked about the story, you talked about the journey, but I mean, you built it, like you said, an 8-figure speaking business and pretty much on your own.
Yeah, I don't have an agent. People reach out to me directly. So yeah, it's what it's been is like, I believe that everybody's a teacher. Another lesson about your journey. I got all these little points I want to share with your audience, man. Everyone's a teacher. Some people teach you how to do things the right way. Some people teach you how not to do things. So on this journey, I've got these other speakers on the speaking circuit. As I'm rising to a bigger level in the speaking circuit, I get introduced to more and more speakers at different levels. And all these speakers that are up these higher levels, they're sharing with me their wisdom that they got along the way. There's no need for me to invent the wheel of the speaking circuit, right? There's no need for me to invent the wheel of selling books and writing good books.
Go find the best and emulate them.
Find the best and emulate them. Yeah. And that's what the world of coaching is. That's what the best CEO. I can tell you, I speak to CEOs and head coaches all over America every day. That's what they're all doing. They're all looking for the best ideas that have already been out there. Yeah. Steve Jobs didn't invent the mouse. Sure. He took it from Hewlett Packard, Just made it better. Yep. But I was able to carve out my life by building relationships, asking questions, understanding what they did. It's like having a map of where all the landmines are. Landmines are only dangerous if you don't know what they are. But if you have a map where the landmines are, you can run through the minefield, right? And
that mentorship, that coaching helped you double, triple what people normally would do in 8 years.
You brought up a good point, coaching. I believe everybody needs a coach. Yep, everybody needs a coach. But you got to find the right coach, right? You got to find one that's aligned with what your goals are, that really understands your message. I think people that are empathetic make some of the best coaches because if someone can feel with you, they can really understand what it is you want to do in life. So find the right coach, use those mentors. Mentors are great in my life. One of my best mentors was a guy named Joe Tatoris. Joe Tatoris was the guy that started Jason's Deli. Yeah. He used to come into prison all the time. And when I got out of prison, I found Joe. He's from Beaumont. I'm down there in the Beaumont area. And Joe became my first mentor after prison. And I asked Joe, he used to come in and talk about servant leadership. He was the guy that was talking about servant leadership. And I asked him, I said, tell me where you first learned about this. And so Joe told me when he started Jason's Deli in '76, 4 employees in one store. He said by the early 90s, they were rocking and rolling, man. They got stores in other states. Money is rolling in hand over fist, but he wasn't happy. And he said he didn't understand it, too, because he was making so much money. And he said his employees weren't happy. The culture's bad. He's not happy. His family's not even happy. And so he goes to this business symposium at Texas A&M in '96. And the speaker that day is a guy named David Glass. Now, David Glass is the first CEO of Walmart, the guy that Sam Walton handpicks to take over when Walton retires in the '80s. David Glass gave a presentation today called Servant Leadership, and it blew Joe away. David Glass said servant leadership is helping other people reach their goals in life, helping to raise other people to a different station of life, because when we help other people grow, we grow too. Well, Joe thought a servant was someone that does menial tasks. They sweep the floor, they carry towels around, right? A leader watches the servants work. Joe realized he hadn't been a good leader at all. And so he goes back to Beaumont and he tells the board at Jason's Deli, we're changing everything we do. We're going to get better wages, better salaries. We're going to take care of our employees better. We're going to get more involved in their lives. We're going to make a family culture of servant leadership here. And Joe, Gabe, I was just at Jason's Deli a while ago down here on Beltline Road. And I always go into Jason's Delis all over the country. Joe told me to do this. He said, go in there, ask the manager on duty who the longest serving employee is there. And the numbers will blow you away. This one was 22 years of this one. But I've met people that worked at Jason's Deli for 30 years, 35 years, 40 years at a sandwich shop. But it's that culture of servant leadership. And Joe's example was what I wanted to base my life on. I look for ways to serve other people every day, because here's the thing that I believe. It's not all for you in life. No matter what you're doing in life and what you're building, you got to find ways to put back in the world around you. In AA, we have these little quirky sayings, one day at a time. But one of our little quirky sayings is you got to give it away to keep it.
Yeah.
So I would say anybody on the entrepreneurial journey in life, find ways that you can serve and put back. Find ways that you can go out and help other people. And this will help you as well, because what it's going to do is it's going to take you outside of your problems sometimes when you help somebody outside in their problems. I start every day with this one prayer that I learned when I was in recovery in prison. Same time I started building my brand, 2010, 2011. And this one prayer is the same prayer I say every day. And whatever faith you are out there, you can pray this prayer. I just happen to be Christian, but you can be anything you want to believe. Yeah. I get up in the morning and say, hey, God, put in front of me what you need me to do today for you, and let me recognize it when I see it. I don't want to miss whatever that is. Amen. Gabe, that's the only thing I pray for. I don't pray for things I think I want or need. Needs and wants are two different things. I pray for the opportunity to be useful. And if I take care of those things, I think other things take care of itself. So, so much of the life that I have today was because of a spiritual awakening that I had inside that prison cell. And the spiritual awakening allowed me to build this brand of a coffee bean and become the person I am today. I believe this. I don't believe human beings are capable of making the kind of gains that I made in life and the transformation I made without a spiritual component. And I don't know what the spiritual component is for each person. I didn't say religion. That's a man-made thing. Yeah. Spirituality is your conscious contact with whatever you call God, but you have to have that component. And without that, I don't build this business. Like, I built this business from scratch, and I learned along the way from other people. And one of the biggest things I did was I go out, and after every presentation I do, I ask the CEO or the head coach, hey, did you like that? Yeah, great. Good. Well, put me on a text with 5 other people that do what you do, 5 other CEOs, 5 other head coaches, right? Let's get the word out. Let me borrow your relationships to spread this thing further. Always ask for the referral, man. Don't ever leave a room without asking for referrals. That's how I built this thing, Gabe. Other speakers out there, they're like, how do you get so many gigs? What are you doing?
Yeah, you're building relationships with the people you're speaking for.
Build relationships, man. They're everything.
Well, awesome, brother. Look, we could talk for another hour and a half.
We'll come back and do a second show.
We'll do a part 2, because I want to hear about the new book.
I would love to do a part 2. Can we do it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's your schedule, man. Hey, how's August 21st sound? Book now. Yeah, not so up
that
now.
Was booked now. I'm thinking about that's Ole Miss actually this year. So exactly. I just got done speaking to the Chargers yesterday, so I'm starting to do more NFL stuff too. So it's awesome. Pretty cool, man. But yeah, man, look, I want to come back and do a second round of this. I got more to share with your audience, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, man. Hey, man. Thanks for always being there for me, brother.
Thank you, man. All right, guys. Hey, great show today. Again, we're going to do a part 2. There's lots more to learn from Damon, and really his journey's been unbelievably inspirational. Thanks for taking the time. And guys, listen, as always, there's no gratitude looking forward. First, you got to look back, pause, and see where you came from so you can move forward with a full heart of gratitude. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.